Hello! From the studio in Nitro, West Virginia, this is Unreasonable Doubt. It's a podcast about West Virginia University basketball. I'm Josh Witt, and West Virginia is in a losing streak. 3 games now, this time in Stillwater against Oklahoma State. It looked a little bit different. We've seen some very familiar things in this game, but this time, West Virginia gave up 46 in the first half. Then the familiar being down 14 in the second half and making a comeback to take a lead in the latter part of the second half. Could not finish in regulation. Had to get a bucket late to get this game to overtime. And then West Virginia didn't score a field goal in overtime until a Jasper Floyd layup with 19 seconds left. And then the poor guy, the wrestler-looking guy for Oklahoma State, blew out his knee with 7 seconds left. So thoughts and prayers of that guy. Hope he has a full recovery. West Virginia loses 91-84. And the defense did not do enough to win the night. When you give up, styles make fights, right? And when Oklahoma State goes into halftime up by 13 and has 46 points, they've won the style category. West Virginia got it to overtime, but you play 40 minutes and the first 20 was rough. And the Cowboys' backup center had a career-high scoring night. There was 6 Cowboys in double figures, and they made all the shots late. Contested threes at home, some tough shots, open shots. They made them when they counted. And yet West Virginia still had a chance to escape Stillwater with a win. And mentally, it's like the last 4 minutes of the second half can't look like gut-wrenching and terrible like the last 2 games, right? And it didn't. The last 4 minutes of the second half looked way better than the last 4 minutes of the last 2 games. And then overtime happened. And overtime kind of looked like the last 4 minutes of the last 2 games, with shots that are short and turnovers and not scoring the basketball. Not as much hot potato, but just still offensive woes. And West Virginia, it was a good run, but the Mountaineers are officially now in the bottom half of the Big 12 standings. So great run from early January to the end of February. West Virginia was a top half Big 12 standings. Hang the banner. And technically still could get back there. It's a narrow road to get there. And on the flip side, West Virginia, I mean, here's the goal shift. It happened that fast. West Virginia in a must-win game a few games ago at home against Utah, firmly on the NCAA tournament bubble. And now the goal has shifted, and it's good news that you look at the schedule and say, all right, West Virginia can't finish the regular season with a losing record. In theory, West Virginia could lose their last 3, be one and done in Kansas City, get invited to the NIT or the Crown, lose their first round game there, and finish with a losing record in year 1 of the Ross Hodge era. Technically possible, but in a few games, it went from bubble to there's a path that they could lose more games that they win. Life comes at you fast. And that's rough. That's kind of a dark thought, and it happened quickly. But I'm going to throw out some glass half full statements. These are not moral victories. It's just looking for the light in the darkness. West Virginia still could finish in the top half of the conference standings. It's tough. It involves winning their last 3, but they could finish 10-8 in the Big 12 and have a winning conference record in year 1. Still possible. And To avoid having a losing record, West Virginia only has to win once. I mean, if they only win once and then lose the rest of the games, then all right, they can finish with at 500. But if they win, they have 4 and possibly 5 chances to win one game and not finish with a losing record. And one of those games is against an interim coach, and one game is against the legendary Central Florida coach, Johnny Dawkins. So, not that that gives you a better chance. I'm on the record saying Johnny Dawkins should have a lifetime contract for Central Florida. But, you know, 1 out of 5 chance? Trayson and Otter both had decent shooting nights tonight, which is encouraging. They haven't scored in double figures together since the Kansas State game, so it's been a while, and it doesn't erase West Virginia giving up 46 in the first half. It's just nice to see those guys make shots, especially Eagle staff, and hopefully that'll carry over. West Virginia made 12 threes tonight. Can you believe it? I mean, they shot in that first half that they finished down 13. They shot a ton of threes, and they weren't going down with consistency. I believe Oklahoma State was comfortable with Brendan Laurier taking 3 stabs at making a 3. One careened off the backboard. The other 2 weren't close. DJ Thomas wasn't really feeling it from 3. But they were open looks. But they did finish with 12 made threes. And that's as many made threes as they had in the previous 3 games combined. So that's encouraging. I got to cancel my Peacock subscription after the weekend game, after the Frog Court game, and I hit the cancel button, and I like a deal. And Peacock offered me 6 more months of Peacock at a heavily discounted rate. And I like a deal, and typically I'd hit the button for that. And, I said, you know what? I'm done with Peacock. And I held strong, finished the cancellation. So that's glass half full. I had some willpower. I don't need Peacock in my life. West Virginia, after losing 3 straight, we can tell ourselves that West Virginia is due for a win. The bad part is that you're on a losing streak. The good part, like Oklahoma State, they had lost 5 in a row. You know what? They were due for a win. And now West Virginia, they've lost 3 in a row. You know what people are saying about the Mountaineers? Is that they're due for a win. That's what people are saying. I mean, I think that's what they're saying. Chance Moore had a double-double and did it doing Chance Moore things. Chance Moore gets West Virginia to overtime, getting to the rim with consistency, following up shots. It's not a pretty game, but you know what you're getting with Chance Moore. And again, my favorite player coming out of the 2025-2026 season is going to be Chance Moore. One-trick pony, one could argue, but I like the trick. And that's the last 2-game road trip of the season. So that's good. And West Virginia, who has been offensively challenged, broke 70 in regulation for the second time in 9 games. And it took overtime to break 80, but they break 80 for the first time since back in January 10th, where West Virginia defeated the Kansas Jayhawks. You know, the Kansas Jayhawks that just beat Houston, and they beat pretty much everybody since they lost to West Virginia. But West Virginia beat them, and West Virginia scored over 80 in that game in regulation. Anyways, it's just, you do have to finish with more points than the other team. And we all agree that that's how it needs to work. It is when you don't break 60 with the consistency West Virginia has here in the last few games, it's just nice to see the ball go in the net some. Just from a visual from an aesthetic standpoint, it was nice to see them get in the 70s. You'd like them to win. And glass half full, I feel comfortable saying that Ross Hodge will be the West Virginia University men's basketball head coach for the 2026-2027 season. And when's the last time we got to say that about a West Virginia University basketball coach sticking around for 2 seasons in a row? It's been longer than what we'd like. It's been a while. Too long, one could say. But unless just something out of nowhere, and anything is possible, shout out to Kevin Garnett, I think we're getting 2 years of the same head coach. You could go glass half empty with that. I'm going glass half full with that. In that, let's just try it on for size. Let's see how it fits. I'm willing to take a stab at having the same coach 2 years in a row. That when I go into College Basketball Reference, it's the same name listed. That hadn't happened in a while. So those are all glass half full things, looking for the light at this point. Here's the much shorter but necessary thing to say that's on the glass half empty side. That game at home versus Utah was a must-win game. West Virginia didn't win that, and that was it for NCAA tournament ideas. And what makes that rough is that West Virginia has now lost 3 in a row. They have at least 4 games left and a possible offseason that's not the offseason that anybody's aiming for at the beginning of the season. And it's not like West Virginia hasn't been to a lesser tournament before. West Virginia has won an NIT. West Virginia had the SAD tournament and in the year of the SAD tournament that ended with West Virginia giving up 100+ to Coastal Carolina, there was hope in that because Bob Huggins was playing the young guys. Guys got kicked off the team. He was playing freshmen. They beat a really good Texas Tech team in the Big 12 tournament, and more games for the young guys with a look to the future. And in the portal era, and with the 4th coach in 4 years and a brand new roster again, and you watch the starting lineup that has been unchanged, and even Chance Moore, who did get a start in Lorient's place, all those guys aren't coming back. And I don't think Ross Hodge is going to the bench in these last few games and having the freshmen play. Nobody's getting kicked off the team. And so you have it's not a lame duck 3 games or 4 games, but it's where does your mind go to with the NCAA tournament out of the picture and guys who are playing all the minutes, who started playing games that count for West Virginia 4 months ago, and at the end of these 4 games, possibly, or whatever happens in a lesser offseason, they're gone. What is there to hang on to, and where does your mind go? Because I'll be candid here, my mind's already wandering to what's the offseason look like? Can Ross Hodge retain the freshman class? Who's he going to get in the transfer portal? And that doesn't feel fair to the guys who have put in the work for year 1 of the Ross Hodge era. But what else do you have? I'm asking. I'm going to have a tough time in these last few games not looking ahead. And looking ahead feels disrespectful to the guys on this team. And I guess they have the ability to make me think about other things. Wins, even though it's not going to an NCAA tournament, wins are fun. I can get it. It doesn't make my mind go ahead, even if it's not going to be an NCAA tournament year. If you start winning games, then I can appreciate this season more. But if it's like, we got you to the game, we got you to the Central Florida game, and then that's all we had, and it's flatlined the rest of the year, yeah, my mind goes to a lot of guys that are not on this roster. And the darker part of that, what the cloud over all of that, is that this looks like it's going to be the third straight postseason where WVU isn't in the NCAA tournament, which will be the longest streak since the beginning of the 21st century. It like the last few years of the Gil Catlett era and the first 2 seasons of the John Beilein era. And John Beilein is like it's like 4 or 5 coaches ago now. So that's dark. I mean, 3 straight seasons without an NCAA tournament. That's anytime for me that you're thinking about the Catlett era, and Catlett early on in his tenure at WVU was getting to the NCAA tournament, and then he got to the NCAA tournament once in a while. And you'd have stretches where West Virginia did not make the NCAA tournament. And not that I'm spoiled, but the track record is, since John Beilein came to town, the longest drought of an NCAA tournament was 2 seasons. And a lot of those times, in those times where it was 2 seasons in a row, for example, John Beilein's first 2 seasons, it was a bunch of freshmen the first year, and they stuck around, and it was year 2, and you seen them building, and that led to the success in the next 2 seasons in the Beilein era. Bob Huggins had a couple of seasons in a row that he didn't make the NCAA tournament. That led to Press Virginia. He got to fix it. And 3 seasons in a row and not getting there with 3 different coaches, it is dark. It is bleak. But here we are. And it also can be bright in that, all right, 2 seasons in a row of the same head coach. Very good recruiting class, if it stays intact. Year 1 of what it actually looks like with Ali on the staff and his recruiting potential, who he can get in the portal, as well as what he's done as far as the high school recruiting class. You get to see the staff work a full transfer portal, not being at another school going to the NIT final. And while things are happening in the transfer portal and the stuff that happens before the transfer portal opens. So that's all encouraging, but it is encouraging and the hunger gets stronger and the fans get more kind of away from the light that was, this was a program for almost 2 decades where being in the NCAA tournament was the norm. And West Virginia can get back there, but they got to start with 1, and it's not looking like it's going to be this season.
Unreasonable Doubt is under the Smoking Musket umbrella. Go to smokingmusket.com. Read posts about WVU sports, Daily Throwdown. Check that out. Go to the Discord. We're talking about WVU sports and other stuff on the Smoking Musket Discord. Link for that is in the show notes. Listen to West by Pod, the WVU football podcast under the Smoking Musket umbrella. Do all that stuff. Smoking Musket.
The next game for WVU, back in Morgantown, where things haven't went well recently, Saturday, 5:30, Fox Network, and West Virginia will welcome the BYU Cougars. And looking at the score right now, BYU is getting smoked at home by the Central Florida Knights. They're down 23 with 5:30 left in the game. That's not great. That's not great for West Virginia. Not great for BYU. And BYU has either the first or the second pick in the NBA draft with the Bonsu. They lost a starter, Richie Saunders, for the season a couple of games ago. They were able to beat Iowa State, but they're going to lose big tonight to Central Florida. And their next game is their get-right game. And guess who's the get-right game? Ask Utah, ask Baylor, ask Oklahoma State. If you don't know who the get-right game is and you're looking around and try to find them and you can't find them, then you're the get-right game. So that's unfortunate. Not good for Saturday. BYU still has something to play for, trying to get solid seeding in the NCAA tournament. West Virginia has 3 straight home losses, and the win before the 3 straight home losses was not pretty. Didn't break 60. 3 losses in a row. I don't usually do predictions at this part of the podcast for the upcoming game. Sadly, I have a prediction for this one. And with BYU coming off of a blowout and having the number 1 or number 2 pick in the draft coming in at a position where I don't know who's going to guard him, that's the prediction. To quote my friend Mr. T, is pain. Will I be right? We'll find out. That's it for this episode of Unreasonable Doubt. Listen on all the platforms or just pick one: Apple Podcasts, Spotify Podcasts, Overcast Podcasts, Amazon Podcasts, YouTube. Till next time, I'm Josh Witt. WVU for the 2025-2026 season. They have 16 wins and they have 12 losses.